Welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves, presented by Grounded Coffee Bar. Damian Dennis, and this week I'm joined by women's basketball coach Shaun Sanderson.
Yeah, thanks for having me. A little early, but thanks for having me.
It's a bit early when we're not here to talk women's basketball, though I'm sure they'll kind of blend in. We're here to talk a little bit about, your day job here at JJC, athletics, academic advising.
Oh, yeah, academics, student athletes. We stress the student part first and then the athlete. So without the student, you can't be an athlete here.
Right. Yeah, whenever I write anything for the website or social media, I always make sure to have it say student athlete. Our coaches might call them players, but no.
Yeah.
But before we dive in, we've got to remind everyone, once again, Grounded Coffee Bar sponsors Coffee with the Wolves.
Hey everyone, it's a great day to get grounded. With locations in New Lenox and Frankfort, it's always a good time to stop by and try our seasonal drinks. Whether that's cherry as summer comes to an end or pumpkin as fall begins. We've also updated our hours to better serve you. We're open late on Fridays and Saturdays now until 9 p.m. Make sure you're following our socials, that's Instagram and Facebook, for the latest updates on our specials and events so you don't miss out. Grounded Coffee Bar is a proud sponsor of Coffee with the Wolves and JJC Athletics.
All right, Shaun, we're recording this on Wednesday night. This comes out Friday. Volleyball just finished their first home match of the season. Didn't go the way they wanted, but, it was a valiant effort out there. A lot of energy, a lot of, action. What'd you make of what you saw? Because we were both down there.
Yeah, first game jitters, first year coach, and, when I see volleyball playing, I know our season is just right around the corner. So I'm always rooting them on, but, unfortunately, they took the loss tonight.
Yeah. I imagine somewhere, maybe in your subconscious, just like, okay, get out of the gym. We want to go.
Yeah. Did I say that out loud?
But, rough start to volleyball, but athletics getting underway here at JJC. Soccer started over the weekend. Volleyball starts, started Wednesday, and then cross country and golf start this weekend. So, everybody's getting underway. First games, first matches of the season. And with it being kind of like, the beginning of the semester here, too. Thought it was a good chance to kind of get you on to talk a little bit about, again, your day job, academic advising. Could you tell those watching, a little bit about like what your role is and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, we have a great team headed by our our director of compliance, then Rachel, and Alyssa. She's retention specialist as well. It's a tag team effort. I know we're coming off summer, but summer is kind of one of our hardest working times. Realistically, I think anywhere between April to August, we're busy. We're trying to graduate our sophomores to get them to their respective schools at the 4-year level. But at the same time, we're welcoming in a whole new group of freshmen.
Yeah.
So whether that's transfers, making sure they're complying with the NJCAA rules, checking GPAs, but at the same time, making sure they're on track to graduate. You don't want to get to the end of their sophomore year and they don't have a place to play because of the academic piece.
Right.
So the rules are kind of simple and plain, but there's a bunch of activity, if you want to say that, with student athletes, if, depending on whether or not they were successful in the class or not. So, but the primary job is to make sure they're on track to graduate, make sure that they're eligible, and when they hit that rough patch, I think the main thing is letting them know and making them understand what their resources are.
Yeah.
The more they know, the best when they're doing well in class, it makes our job a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, and obviously they're young adults, so life gets in the way sometimes, so we have to step out of that box of being a retention specialist and be mom, dad, big brother, sister, or whoever.
I'm kind of with the semester starting, I want to talk or ask about your approach when it comes to the incoming freshmen versus returning sophomores, whether it's, just as simple as that, I guess, the freshmen versus the sophomores.
Yeah, managing close to 300 athletes is very difficult, but at the same time, I know I try to get to know every student athlete that I'm working with. Their grades tell me a lot, but then there's also the personalities. Some, let's be frank, a lot of them are here just because of their sport and not necessarily the academics.
Yeah.
But I need to know that because I need to put them in a position where it's eventually going to click. So a lot of confidence building, making sure they get to know their different resources. Again, it makes it a little easier for us. But I think that's numero uno, kind of getting to know who our student athletes are. And probably over half of them don't know what they really want to do.
Yeah.
So, just kind of walking them through that, letting them know it's okay not to know what you want to do. But I think a lot of times there's a lot of outside pressure. Oh, you got to declare a major now. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Let's just get good grades right here and keep it moving forward. And eventually something's going to click.
It's funny you mentioned the major because I don't think I declared a major until I transferred to a 4-year. But I kind of always knew what I was going to do, because I went to 2 community colleges myself, then Oakland University. But I took TV and creative writing and journalism classes and all that stuff at the community college level. And then when I went on to my 4-year, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. The stigma of junior college back in the day was, you only went to junior college if you weren't smart. And that's a lie. I think junior college is probably the smartest decision to make because it allows you to grow, explore, and do a bunch of things where if you're at the 4-year, you're just lost. You're in a big pond trying to figure it out. So. Yeah,
I agree with that. Going to a JUCO 2-year school first is probably a good step if you don't know what you want to do. Or maybe financially it might be a better choice out the gate too, even if you do know what you want to do.
Yeah, here at JJC, we do a phenomenal job academically. There's millions of dollars in scholarship. There's work study, and our tuition, once you start to compare it to the 4-year institution, is rather cheap. So we do a phenomenal job of, whether it's academic scholarships. We have student athletes working here in the building around campus. So it's really no reason to fail here as long as you're, communicating, you're upfront. There's too many resources here.
Yeah. Now, whenever I'm here in the office, you, Rachel, Alyssa, you've got, student athletes coming in and out. And it's not just for you, it's not just women's basketball or even men's basketball. It's, baseball players, it's softball players, volleyball, wrestling, golf, everyone kind of coming through to talk to you guys. How often are they coming to you looking for advice on classes to take or, maybe which instructors to take for a specific class or, are they coming to you just to talk because they already have that relationship with you from the, orientation, let's say?
All of the above. Just this week alone, with it being the first week of school, I've had students actually waiting for me in the concourse there, whether they were lost, showing up for class on the wrong day. But, they get a comfort level with us at some point, and once they develop that comfort level, they bring other things other than school, maybe some situations going on at home. But, almost every hour on the hour. A lot of my days, I'm usually the last one out of this building because it's a quiet time for me to kind of catch up for the work of the day or even yesterday. But, I have to remind myself, I was young too. I was lost. I didn't really know what was going on. So you just try to be patient with them. And that's a part of them getting that confidence. But the rewarding part is you see the maturation of them after a year, and then after 2 years, now here it is, they're walking the stage or matriculating to another institution. So that's always the rewarding piece.
So you mentioned them, getting, to sophomore year through sophomore year, and it kind of sparked this thought in me about my own junior college path. When I think going to a community college first, it kind of made me more mature and prepared me better for college at the 4-year because I was able to, I didn't rely on my academic advisors when I switched. I had to a lot at the JUCO, but by the time I got to Oakland, I just did it all myself. I think other than when I did orientation and was forced to meet one and had to, worked I found a workaround of a math class, but.
Yeah. And usually, like I said, with the community colleges, it allows you to explore. So, I get students all the time that switch their majors 1 or 2 times. So usually when you get to that point, your junior year, you kind of realize what you want to do. So, your junior, senior year, your focus is usually on your major.
Yeah.
And a majority of your classes, it's some form of your major, which draws your interest even more. And then, of course, there's the internships and different things like that. And you're able to speak to those professors and things before you go out into the real world.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if it's an attorney or someone, they're going to go and get their master's, and you're hoping that they to continue their education. So, but it's some 30, 40-year-olds still trying to figure out life. So, and that's the beauty of education, and in the U.S., it allows you to do multiple things. You can even change careers in the middle of your career. That was unheard of. It was unheard of growing up, and I would when I was a kid, we had limited, at least in our minds, we had limited things to do. Either you're going to be a teacher, doctor, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but now you can be whatever it is you want to be.
I mean, to be fair, I raised my hand about the career change. It's kind of more like I was going this way, now I'm just kind of slightly over here, I guess.
Yeah. And like, what's wrong with it? If you have the heart and the mind and the passion for it, I have a sign on my door. Hey, let's go get it.
Yeah. How do you, when it comes to the student side of things, how do you kind of coach, all the 300 student athletes we have here at JJC, coach them in terms of the academics? Let's say maybe they didn't do so hot on a test, or maybe they're unfortunately failing a class or risk failing a class. How do you kind of approach that and tackle that with the student athlete? Because it's probably also a collaborative effort, with the coach, with Scott.
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I get students that want to drop a class, and no, I'm not. We're going to sit down and figure out what's the problem.
Yeah.
So over 90% of the time, it's a time management deal. Are we demanding as coaches from our student athletes? Absolutely. But one thing, once you go into the corporate world, a lot of your CEOs and things, they were athletes. But I usually sit them down. One of my famous things is to draw a pie with 24 slices, and the first question I ask is, how many hours of sleep do you get?
Yeah.
So we factor in what that time is, and then we start to look at their class schedules, and if they drive to class, we look at that. Once they see what they're doing in a day and how much dead time that they have, a lot of times it's a lot of mismanagement. And if they need tutoring, I've had students in my office crying, want to drop math, and I say, no, let's go to the Tutoring Learning Center. Let's get a tutorer. And if that tutorer doesn't work, let's get another tutorer. Yeah. And that's the part of growing up. If I allow you to drop a class right now, then you're going to quit at any and everything in life. So I want to push you to a limit now. If there's some things going on, we'll kind of address those things too, because we don't want to scar them. We want them to kind of develop into that student athlete, because one day that's going to be their child. You would hope that they would instill those values in them as well.
Yeah, and going back to the maturity thing real quick, but I feel like, and I'm sure it's just what they put on, the student athletes put on a front a little bit when they're in here, but I swear so many of them, even some of the freshmen who come in every year, seem like they're far more mature than I was at their age. Now, I have heard them talk with their friends, in the building when they don't think one of us are around. So I'm like, okay, it's about right. But
yeah, and I gotta give kudos to our team. Our student, Alyssa and Rachel. We give a a different dynamic from different angle. And just today, we had a student athlete. We're giving high fives with the student athlete because we figured out a way to make her graduate before she didn't want to go to summer school. So here it is. We're collaborating. We're working together, and emailing professors, say, hey, can we get this done? And but yeah, we work so closely as a team and try to make it happen. If someone makes a mistake, we're there to pick it up. But yeah, it's fun. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, but we try to think about the big picture, and for coaches, when our players are graduating, that helps their recruiting because now that student can move on. And one key thing I wanted to mention too, we try to get them to think about life after that 4-year. We got a couple of students, they're in a position now where they're at like state universities, smaller schools, but state, University of Indiana, Purdue, University of Illinois, competing and being able to get those degrees, which is going to be huge when they get to their careers.
And I want to ask, how much collaborative effort or collaboration in general is there between you, Rachel, and Alyssa, and then the college side? Because I know I've heard in just passing by, like, oh, you should go talk to so and so in academic advising, over in wherever it is, A building or whatever. I don't know where, but
it's amazing. Just the other day, we had a student. He's into film. Here comes Brian Fruits. Professor Fruits coming down the hall, and he's almost taking him on as a mentor. Our psychology department, they're amazing. Margot Underwood and the Vitro and Rodney Bullock, I think he just retired. But these amazing, like Michelle Meyer in business, Will O'Connor, like so many amazing, and I probably should stop because I don't want to get anybody jealous, but not just those departments, our Tutor and Learning Center, CMOS, Center of Multicultural Access and Success, Career Services. We're building them not only as student athletes, but just as individuals. And they're not going to always be in this building, but when they're on the other areas of the building, we want them to recognize our student athletes. Last year, we had a faculty night after one of our games, but we want to be engaged in, because what's the old saying, it takes a village. So we want them to be engaged and come to our games.
Correct.
But I think that's important when your professor knows you, and then after you're in their class, you can look in the stands and see that they're at your game. So the collaboration is amazing. We want it to be better, but I think we're getting there. It's continued to grow. Sometimes I get a phone call, hey, such and such didn't show up in my class. I want that. I want that. And, and I think it's important that they know that we care about them, but so do the professors.
Shaun, last question. In your role, how often are you kind of working alongside the student athletes, about like transferring and, graduation, and how many of our student athletes graduate from JJC as opposed to maybe they don't get an associate's, but they still go on and eventually graduate?
It's a constant, it's almost day to day that conversation is coming up. Like with our sophomores, we're laying the foundation, the roadmap, even for those that didn't do well in their school and, with financial aid, we're giving them the roadmap so they can see what's left. But I'm sorry, I missed the second part of that question.
Oh, just how much push is there, I guess, for our student athletes to graduate, whether it's here or maybe they don't get associates here, but they still go on and get their bachelor's?
So our goal is for them to graduate, and I tell them, let's get 2 degrees, Associates of Arts or Science, and obviously the general studies as well. But it's a huge push. When you get that degree, nobody can take it away from you, one, but it also opens the door for you to get more money. Transfer degrees, it can be the difference between you getting, like, depending on where you go, 2,000 more or 25 to 30,000 more. So I think it's huge. Now we know life gets in the way, you know, and sometimes our students may flunk a class, but I always tell them that F does not define you. You know, it might have been a situation that you were going through, you're trying to pull through. So if that's the case, then we try to get them like 48 transferable hours. So if you're on track to graduate, but if it doesn't happen, let's get 48 transferable hours. That way you still have scholarship offers when you leave us.
You know, and I just want to emphasize for any student athletes that may watch this episode, I was a terrible student. In high school, I was up and down. My first year of college at my first community college, I was average. Second community college, I was great. When I went on to Oakland, I was all over the place. I'm pretty sure like my major GPA was like a 3.0, but my overall GPA was like a 2.5 because like I focused so much on the major that the other things I had to do I didn't do. I mean, my last semester of college, I worked 5 or 6 jobs. One of them full time while doing full time school. So
and that's
but not to cut you off. But then, you know, I graduated, and 8 years later, I went to Northwestern University for my master's and graduated with 3.9. So
and you know, but that's the beauty of college. You know, I've been here going on 21 years. Since I've been here, I remember we had an 85-year-old to graduate. And just a few years ago, we had a 12-year-old to graduate here with an associate's degree. I think currently, right now, I just saw an article of him in the paper. We had was one of my students from back in the day. He was homeschooled, 13-year-old. You know, so everybody's story is different and is amazing. So whether it takes you a year to get an associate's degree or 20 years, you know, that's your journey. You know, and I'd say cherish it because, you know, somebody else might need your story.
All right, Shaun, I appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit about academic advising and just, you know, doing the schoolwork here at JJC.
That's right.
Talking the student side of student
That's
athlete.
right.
You know, we'll have you on again probably in about month and a half to preview women's basketball. But, you know, right now, you know, it's August still, I mean. It's real early for you to be on. But yeah, next week we got Scott coming on to kind of talk a little bit about the same things, but, you know, the more mental side of things. You know, the start of the season, start of the semester, dealing with the mental aspect of all that. We'll be back at Grounded Coffee Bar in New Lenox next week, and Wolf of the Week returns next week. So
all right,
cool.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching.